ॐ यो माग्ने भागिनगं सन्तमथा भागं चिकीर्षति अभागमग्ने तं कुरु मामग्ने भागिनं कुरु। शब्दार्थभाविभुवना सृजतीन्दुरूपा या तद्बिभर्ति पुनः अर्कतनुस्वशक्त्या वह्न्यात्मिका हरति तत्सकलं युगान्ते तां शारदां मनसि जातु न विस्मरामि। श्रोतांसि सर्वर्षिहृदां यदीये प्रज्ञासमुद्रे मिलनं भजन्ति तं ज्ञानविज्ञाननिधिं शरण्यं श्रीसद्गुरुं त्वां शरणं प्रपद्ये। Warm welcome to everyone. I know they took around less than 2 minutes to introduce me. And you have the remaining 2 hours to validate whether their introduction was right or not, or was it worthy or not. Anyway, now I'm sure that in the previous session, an introduction, a general introduction to Bhagavadgita and especially this 6th chapter has been given. Now, I'm assigned with the task of remembering and also an anusandhanam. So that's the right word to use, because it's not just giving a discourse. It's not just merely words written somewhere being told or being conveyed to somebody else. Every time we read or we yash shrunoti, yaha vachayati, yaha shravayati, yah kathayati, yaha anusandhatte, all of us are a part of this bigger loop of Bhagavad Gita. That is the reason why Bhagavad Pada mentioned that Bhagavad Gita kinchidadhita Ganga jalalavakarnika pita sakridapi yena murari samarcha kriyate tasya yamena na charcha. So the reason why so much of emphasis, so much of onus is put on Bhagavad Gita is because it is quite evident when we start experiencing it or when we start reading it. It really makes for a wonderful experience for oneself. Whether we are listening to it, whether we are reading it, whether we are conveying it, it always makes a definite impact on all of us involved. Therefore, the 6th chapter, interestingly enough, the 6th chapter is considered as the commentary on the 3 shlokas that were mentioned in the previous chapters. This is how actually the Shankara Bhashya begins. Not just Shankara Bhashya, even Madhusudana Saraswati's commentary begins with the same words. They say that at the end of the 5th chapter, 3 shlokas, 27, 28 and 29, shloka number 27, 28 and 29 of 5th chapter, they were mentioned in the form of a sutra. They were mentioned in the form of an aphorism. And the further detailing has been done. The whole of 6th chapter is nothing but a detailing of the previously told 3 shlokas. Now, very quickly, I know that we all signed up for the 6th chapter. I told you that we are going to start with the traits of a yogi and everything. But it's better to just take a quick glance at the previous chapter, especially those 3 shlokas. Why exactly and where exactly is the connection? Whenever we talk of Indian knowledge systems or anything related to our traditional knowledge systems, we must bear in mind that it is a unique kind of approach that we have. We have a special kind of approach towards any knowledge system that is grown and that is indigenous by nature. It doesn't involve a direct approach, but it lays down a firm foundation, and on that firm foundation, everything else is built. And there is something else called as simhavalokanam. That is a popular word for revision. The word revision that we quite oftenly use in English, the Indian word for that revision is simhavalokanam. Why is it exactly called as simhavalokanam? There are several kinds of avalokanams as well. But why exactly it is called as simhavalokanam is because if you observe how a lion walks, of course, we have read it several times, we have watched it. If you have visited Gir forest, maybe you have watched it live. And otherwise, if you have watched it on television, then you would see that it walks majestically. But that's not why it is called as Simhavalokanam. It has got a special trait. The special trait of the lion is that it takes 10 steps, it pauses, and it looks back, and then it moves ahead, and again does the same thing. So that is the reason why every time we need to move forward, we need to take a pause and just look back how exactly things have been so far and how do we take it further. And the idea of doing this Simhavalokanam is so that the connection is not lost. It all started with one question, a dilemma that Arjuna possessed, and there is a continuation of that. A simple thing has been told. It's about pravritti dharma and nivritti dharma. It's about moha and shoka, how to get rid of them. So there has been certain dialogue that has been already developed, and it is a continuation of that dialogue. Therefore, in the previous chapter, sparshan kritva bahirbahyan, in this shloka, it is said that how we can attain that dhyana yoga, or how can we attain, or how can we become a serious sadhaka. It is more on the practical side of it. Not on lesser on the intellectual side, but more on the practical side of it. How can one involve themselves in this abhyasa, or in this jnana, or in this yoga? So they said that two things, one is sannyasa, another one is yoga. So two completely different topics, and are they related anyway? Or are they different from one another? Or are they one and the same? So these are some of the basic questions that need to be answered. And these questions are answered initially in the first shloka of the 6th chapter. Of course, it begins anashritah karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnihi na chakriyah. This is how the shloka goes. In the very first shloka itself, they have mentioned both the words sannyasi as well as yogi. So it begs the question that what exactly is sannyasa and what is yoga? Now the word yoga here refers to karma yoga, and sannyasa is karma phala parityaga. Karma phala tyaga, or sarva karma phala tyaga, is what they are aiming at. And why should we practice karma phala tyaga is another question. What happens if we do not practice karma phala tyaga? And what forces us, or what enables us to be bound by karma? Irrespective of however we are leading the life as of now, one cannot dismiss the impact of karma on our life. It's all because of the karma bandhana, it's all because of the karma phala that we are stuck here. But we have something in control, that is, how do we avoid the rest of the life, whatever actions that we are going to do, how do we avoid that becoming a bondage for us? It's true that several things that we did earlier, it has turned out itself to be a nightmare for us, because it has continued us, it has kept us in this samsara. But how about the future ones? How do we gain control over it, or how do we alter our course so that the karma won't become a bondage, won't become a burden on us? That is why karma phala and karma phala parityaga, all these things are to be understood. Now, when we say karma, generally what is the idea that appears in our mind? Karma is translated as action. Of course, karma is action, but it's not only action that counts as karma. Anything that we think also qualifies as karma. Anything that we speak also qualifies as karma. Every word that we speak, every thought that we think, and every action that we do qualifies as karma. And if we push it a little further, if we dig a little deeper, we can even go on and make the statement that existence is also karma. Otherwise, why would Samskrita language, bhavati, asti, these are all kriyapadas, isn't it? They all are denoting something related to action. They are verbs. Why are they verbs? If existence is also considered as a verb, it means that mere existence also qualifies as karma. But if it is not driven properly, if it is not guided properly, if it is not known correctly, then it can lead us again to this infinite loop of birth and death. That is the reason why we are so serious about understanding karma, karma phala, and why karma phala parityaga is important. In the first shloka, in the Shankara Bhashya, Bhagavad writes a line, Yohi karma phale trishnavan, saha karma phala shrito bhavati. We all have this question that why do we get stuck in this karma phala? I have resolved today that none of the actions that I am going to perform today or in future should bind me. Is this resolve not sufficient enough? And we have made this resolve. Just take for an example, we have made such a resolve before applying for a job. So what is the idea of anybody generally when they apply for a job? That they want to get that job. It's not that they don't want to get the job, but merely for the sake of applying, they are applying for it. So there is karma phala trishna there, right? Trishna is that there is a desire to get the outcome of that particular karma. So as long as there is karma phala trishna, there is always going to be karma phala ashraya. We are going to become karma phala ashraya. We will be the house, we will be the dwelling place for the karma phala. So the karma phala will definitely leave an impact on us as long as we have associated ourselves, as long as we have that phala abhisandhi. There is another word used in Sanskrita, phala abhisandhi. Madhusudana Saraswati uses that word called as phala abhisandhi. Sandhi is when we reach there. Abhisandhi is when we definitely want to reach there. Like we are absolutely sure, we are 100% sure that we want to achieve this, we want to get this. So once this gets stuck in our mind, it is very difficult for that action to not give its outcome. It will definitely give its outcome, and that outcome is definitely going to have an impact on us. So when they said anashritah karma phalam, right, this is the first line of the first shloka, anashritah karma phalam. Karma phalam anashritah. The word anashrita, this is why Bhagavad used that word, that karma phala trishna. That is the one, yaha karma phale trishnavan, he who is interested or deeply interested, invested in the outcome of an action, he automatically will become the ashraya for that karma phala. So he becomes ashritaha and not anashritaha. The idea is anashritaha. All right. And then karma phalam anashritaha. What is karma phalam? Karma phalam is the outcome of every action that we previously discussed. Nothing is left behind. Everything. In nowadays, the word that popularly is used is manifestation. Okay, anything that we manifest is going to leave behind an impact, and that is called as karma phala. All types of karma, all sorts of manifestations is definitely going to leave an impact, and that is karma phala. And these karma phala should not become a guest, should not stay. We should not become an ashraya for this. So anashritah, karma phalam anashritah. So then how do we achieve that? Very simply, we said that ashraya becomes, we invite problems because we expect something. To put it in very simpler words, we invite problems to our doorstep because we expect something out of every action. So if we can remove that expectation part, then automatically we would not be the ashraya for karma phala. It works that way. The negation works from this end. So they said that karma phala trishna rahitaha. What do you mean by anashritah karma phalam? When you say karma phalam anashritaha, what exactly is the meaning of that? The meaning of that line is that they do not have any sort of desire or interest towards karma phala. Karma phalam anashritaha. Okay. So that is the first part of that shloka. That is quite clear, I believe. Anashritah karma phalam. And as I said, this is all a build-up. This is all like a commentary written on the previous 3 shlokas mentioned in the previous chapter, where the dhyana yoga has been mentioned. Now, how do we attain that? Without this, it is not possible. In the next shlokas, we are going to discuss about that as well. Anashritah karma phalam. And then karyam karma karoti yaha. They could have simply said karma karoti yaha. Yaha karma karoti. He who does the activities. But not just activities. Karyam karma karoti yaha. The activities that are supposed to be done. The activities that we cannot escape. We cannot get a leave for that. We cannot get a discount on that. We cannot say that, can you give us another alternative for this? There are no alternatives. There are certain karmas that need to be performed. Now, this is where all the confusion, or as the Purva Paksha would say, that this is where the confusion stays. So, is this targeted towards somebody who has gotten into sannyasa, or is it directed towards somebody who is actually still in the grihasthashrama? Is it possible for a grihi or karmi? These are the words that they usually use for a grihastha. Those who are still in the grihasthashrama, those who are still involved in various activities, is it possible for them to attain this yoga? How is it possible? Because they cannot leave everything behind. It is not possible. Then how do they achieve this? So this whole shloka, the first shloka, the gist of the first shloka is about who is the adhikari for this. Is it only specifically designed for some people who have already taken up sannyasa, or is it even for those who are yet in the grihasthashrama as well? Here it goes. Now they say that he who does all the activities, all those activities that are supposed to be done by them, it goes without saying, by the virtue of saying that he who does these activities that are supposed to be done by him, by the virtue of that, it says that you should not be doing something that is forbidden for you. And you should not take up something that is not meant for you. I'm not sure how many of you are absolutely well-versed or very good in the local language Kannada. There are 2 words in Kannada that are very, very impactful. Once upon a time, every household used to use these 2 words in the right context, in the exact context. When something was supposed to be prohibited at home for young children, for small children, they used to use 2 different words. The one was Mada Baradu, which is very popular. Okay. And even today, even to this day, when the word Mada Baradu is used, it agitates the young minds. Yes, it does. Okay. And then there was one more word which has gone out of popularity nowadays. That is Mada Kudadu. Very rarely people use nowadays the word Mada Kudadu. The reason why it was called as Mada Kudadu is, the word itself has got the meaning. Madidare kuduvudilla. That is why Mada Kudadu. If you do this, then it won't match, because it won't align with what you are, with yourself. So if you are already on a path, and if you are trying hard enough to not to be swayed away by that, from that path, if you want to stick with that path, and if you want to continue with that sadhana, then it becomes essential for you to validate, examine each and everything that comes across you. And after validating, the question or the quotient that remains is that whether it adds up to this sadhana, yes or no. If it adds up, then you can accept. If it doesn't add up, you leave that behind. There were few things that they used to say that immediately after consuming food, you should not drink water. See, in English, we have only one variety, that is, you should not drink water or you must not drink water. Neeru kudi kurdu. This is how they used to say at home. Neeru kudiya kudadu. Kudadu in the sense that if you drink, it won't match. It won't go well with the body. Likewise, here as well, there are certain karmas that are supposed to be done by us, by the virtue of being in existence, and that nobody can escape. It also means that you should not take up something that is not meant for you. We need to have this viveka about karma. And then, sasanyasi cha yogi cha na niragnihi na cha kriyaha. There are nitya karmas, naimittika karmas, as well as kamya karmas. The varieties of karma, the karma prapancha is huge, is vast. There is no end to karma prapancha. And obviously they would have involved and invested themselves in all these kind of activities. Saha karmi. It is only that kind of person that is taken as a subject here, not everyone. So there are always going to be gradation about the kind of person that we are going to take up. There will always be qualifications. It's not like nobody gets a wild card entry. There's always going to be certain gradations, and that gradation always proves that how should one be conducting themselves in life. Of course, they are all involved in activities, but true, but what sort of activities? A person involved in prohibited activities is also qualified as a person involved in activities. Therefore, we need that understanding, a clear-cut understanding that he who is involved in the activities that he is meant to do. That's why the Gita shloka says, karyam karma karotiyaha. Karyam, kartavyam ityartha. That which needs to be done, that which must be done at all time. That sort of karma, karyam karma karotiyaha. Now, how is he different from others? If he is doing all these things, and he has got one more qualification, that is karma phala manashritaha. He is doing all the things that he is supposed to do, and at the same time, he is karma phala trishna rahitaha. Remember the line, or remember that word, one word. Karma phala trishna rahitaha. He is not too desirous of the outcome of the action. When we say not too desirous, it means that he has got little desire. No. The absence of that, trishna rahita, absolute absence of the outcome of every action. And he is involved in those activities that he is supposed to do. Now we have a subject in our mind. Now the qualification is corrected. This is like a Google form. All right. So you submit this, and you will read the title, and it's like, the first one is karoti yaha, karma karoti yaha. He who is doing, I'm doing plenty of activities every day. Let me sign up to this. And then it takes you to page 2. Karyam karma karoti yaha. Wait a minute, I need to examine myself whether I'm doing karyam karma or not. And then it takes to level 3. That is anashrita karma phalam. Oh, karma phalam anashrita san karyam karma karoti yaha. And only he qualifies as sannyasi cha yogi cha. This is where we hit that back button. Like, oh, wait a minute, we need to understand this much better, and then we will come back again. Maybe this time not for me. Maybe I will sign up for this later on. So the gradation. Karotiyaha, he who does the activities. Karma karotiyaha, he who does the karmas. And then karyam karma karotiyaha, which means that nishiddha karmani na karoti. Pratisiddha karmani na karoti. Yat kartavyani bhavanti tanyeva karoti. Those which are absolutely necessary, he does that. Then what is the difference between so many people? So many people are still doing. No. He does that with an added aura to that. Has got a different vibe to it. Just to put the modern day context. And what is that extra vibe that he has got to it? Anashrita karma phalam. Karma phalam anashritaha. Karma phala trishna rahita san karyan karma karoti. Alright, he qualifies as sannyasi cha yogi cha. Now, sannyasaha is parityagaha, and both Madhusudana Saraswati and Bhagavad Padaha both use the same definition for the word sannyasa, that is tyagaha or parityagaha, karma phala parityagaha. And then yoga is chitta samadhanam. Here comes Madhusudana Saraswatiji's, brilliant insight. He just opens up that door to Yoga Sutras and to Yoga Darshana and the initiation into Yoga Shastra with this one word, and he opens up and he says that chitta gata vikshepa bhavascha yoga. This is how he has defined yoga. There are plenty of vikshepas in our chitta. Chitta is mind. There are plenty of vikshepas in the chitta, and the absence of all those vikshepas is called as yoga. Whereas on the other hand, Bhagavad Padaha keeps it very simple. He says chitta samadhanam. Samadhanam in the sense not the kind of samadhanam that we understand. If somebody is crying, please samadhanam madkuli. No, not that kind of samadhanam. This is a different type of samadhanam. They mean samadhi. Samadhi is known as samadhanam. But chitta vikshepa. Now this karma phala trishna rahitatvam or karma phala trishna tyaga is what we were aiming at. So when you said sannyasa, how does a person who is actually doing all the things that are meant for him without miss, but having no sort of desire towards the karma phala, qualifies as sannyasi? He qualifies as a sannyasi because he has this ability to not expect any result. So he has, in other words, not directly, but in other words, he has done the tyaga of the karma phala, of all the activities that he does. There is absolutely, definitely going to be an outcome of all the activities. And that outcome, he has done the tyaga. That's why he was called as sannyasi. There should be some qualification. No, you cannot simply randomly call him as sannyasi. What is the logic behind calling that person as sannyasi? The logic behind calling him sannyasi is that karma phala tyagam karoti. He has given up. Therefore, he says that karma phala trishna tyagaha is in other way, in a very different approach, has been called as sannyasa, and hence he qualifies as sannyasi. All right. Now, what about yoga? He's not only called as sannyasi. It's like a dual degree program. You sign up for certain universities, and they will simply grant you that we have an MOU with another university. You get another degree added as well. Now, sannyasa, we understood. He is called as sannyasi. Fine, fantastic. Yogi cha. He is also known as yogi. How? Here comes the important thing. Now, yoga is, as we mentioned, yoga is about not having any sort of chitta vikshepa. The absence of these chitta vikshepas qualifies as yoga. And this absence is also sort of tyaga only. Because it is usually these chitta vikshepas that are the points that give us a reference to the existence of karma phala trishna. If I am attached, if I am associated with karma phala, if I am desirous of karma phala, how do I know that I am associated or I am inclined towards karma phala? Because in my mind, I have made up this, that I am not inclined towards karma phala. But then how do I validate it? Because invalid knowledge is not knowledge. Every information needs to be validated. Every knowledge needs to be validated. So how does this qualify as yoga then? It says that if we have karma phala trishna, if that karma phala trishna is still in place, then we will have all these types of vikshepas in our mind. Avidya, raga. See, raga is also one of the vikshepas. It is a part of the vikshepas. So if it is a part of vikshepa, what is karma phala trishna? Our most interest, our desire to hold on to that karma phala, hold on to that outcome of an action. So if it is there, then it means that chitta vikshepa is also still there. And if you remove this one, karma phala trishna rahitatvam, and when we go and achieve that karma phala trishna is gone, there is no trishna for karma phala, then automatically there will be no vikshepa, and hence that person qualifies as a yogi, because yoga also happens there. Chitta vikshepanam nirodha eva yoga khalu. Sorry, no, the control of chitta vikshepas is what yoga is all about. So raga also qualifies as a chitta vikshepa. If raga is a chitta vikshepa, it is like working out a mathematical problem, that's all. If raga is a chitta vikshepa, and chitta vritti nirodha, or the absence of chitta vikshepas, is yoga, and raga and trishna, they have a similar meaning. They come with a different tagline, that's all. Hence, karma phala trishna rahitatvam and this chitta vikshepa bhava, both of them become LHS is equal to RHS, which means that he who previously we defined him as anashritah karma phalam karyam karma karotiyah, without having any sort of inclination towards karma phala trishna rahitas san, he who does all the necessary activities, he qualifies as sannyasi as well as yogi. Because of the trishna rahitatvam, he becomes a yogi. Because of karma phala tyaga, he becomes a sannyasi. So sannyasi cha yogi cha. And then another important debate. Na niragnihi na cha kriyaha. So what is niragni and what is akriyaha? It should be split as akriyaha. Na niragnihi na cha akriyaha. So niragnihi is nirgataha agnayaha yasmat saha. So he is not into any of this agnihotram, etc., etc. Niragnihi na cha akriyaha. Kriya here refers to things that are done without the presence of fire. Things that can be done without the fire being there. Like dana, dharma, etc., etc., puja, etc. These are qualified as kriya. So he is akriyaha, and that person is called as akriya. Another one is niragnihi. Now, he who has given up every activity that is associated with Agni, and he who does not perform any sort of this kriya kalapa or puja, all these things, only he is referred as sannyasi and yogi generally, no, in the Shastra. That is our popular opinion. He who does nothing is usually called as a sannyasi. That's general opinion about sannyasis, because they are not involved into any activity. So isn't this aimed at that those kind of, or those set of people? How come you are saying that karyam karma karoti yaha? You are trying to include them. It is like bringing the recently passed article, citizenship amendment. Why are you trying to bring in some other people into this? It is not required. Only niragnis and akriyas qualify as sannyasis and yogis, and it is already mentioned in the Shastras. Why are you trying this? Is the Purvapakshan's question. Okay. The answer is kathamiha sagnehe sakriyasya cha sannyasitvam yogitvam cha aprasiddhatvam uchyate. And Bhagavad Pada answers naisha dosha. It's not an error. Understand the CAA? It's not an error if one of our bichde bhai bandhu in other countries, if they want to come back, let them come back. There is a qualification for that, no? Anashritah karma phalam karyam karma karoti is the qualification. So if he is qualifying that examination, why are you not allowing him? Right? That's the answer. Kayachit gunavrittya ubhayasya sampadeshayitvat. Because in a way, in a very unique way, they are trying to achieve both of that with this word. Therefore, they do also qualify. Even the karmi, those who are involved in activities, also qualify to be called as sannyasi and yogi. Okay. And if they do all sorts of karma with kama sankalpa varjitam, without any special resolve towards any desires or any outcomes, and if they do chitta vikshepa hetoho, in order to give up on those chitta vikshepa or chitta shuddhi, in order to achieve that chitta shuddhi, if they are going to perform these actions, they do qualify that. Right? Therefore, we need not worry about it. Na niragnihi na chakriyaha. Now, Madhusudana Saraswati takes a different approach, and he also mentions the same thing. But sorry, I did not conclude that part. So when the Gita shloka said, na niragnihi na chakriyaha, it meant that not only niragnis and akriyas are qualified as sannyasi and yogi, even those who are not niragni and akriya, but those who are involved in their respected activities, but karma phala trishna rahitaha bhavanti, they also qualify as sannyasi and yogi. Is the conclusion, is one part of the conclusion. Or there is another way of understanding this. Now, it's not that always niragni and akriya are the only ones who qualify. And he quotes, apashavo va anye go ashvebhyah pashavo go ashvaha. This is a famous line taken from Bhashya. And he quotes this line and he mentions that kintu sagni sakriyascha nishkama karmanusthani sannyasi yogi cheti mantavyaha. The reason why naniragnihi nachakriyaha has been used is to reiterate the fact, to establish the fact that sagnihi, those who have kept agni, those who have nitya agnihotra, or those who perform their activities in agni, agnihotra, etc., those, as well as sakriya, and also those who are involved in various types of other kriya kalapas, if they can do that with nishkama karma anusthana, that is karma phala trishna rahita, that is, in other words, anashrita karma phalam. If karma phalam anashritasan, if they can do all these things, it means that they can also be qualified. So this is the gist, and both of them arrive at the same conclusion. All right. Now, if this is the case, then we move on to the second one. Yam sanyasamiti prahuhu yogam tam vidhi pandava na hyasanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Okay. Now, Pandava, he is calling upon Arjuna, and he says that yam sannyasam iti prahuhu. Now, here lies the fill up the blanks. This usually happens in most of the texts. Yam sannyasam iti prahuhu, that which is called as sannyas. What? And that's where we need the fillers. That's why the Bhashyas of Bhagavad Pada help us. He says that yam sarva karma tat phala parityaga lakshanam paramartha sannyasam iti prahuhu. This is how he defines yam sannyasam iti prahuhu, that which is known as sannyasa. What is known as sannyasa? So Bhagavad Pada's definition for sannyasa is sarva karma tat phala parityaga lakshanam. This is the definition of sannyasa. Sarva karma phala tyagaha. I think it's quite self-explanatory. Sarva karma and whatever phala comes from those karma, those respective karma. That the problem why they keep on stressing on the point that sarva karma phala tyaga is, as human beings, as the most qualified creatures in the ladder, or we are the beings who have occupied the top position in the league of hypocrisy. Okay. Yeah. As human beings, as all of us here. See, we have this tendency that when it comes to karma phala parityaga, if an option is given to us, do we mind if an option is provided to us? You can give up on certain karma phalas and you can choose certain karma phalas to hold of your choice. Obviously all of us are going to hold on to the punya phalas. Any karma phala that gives us some good benefits, we are going to keep it. Punya is something like dividends. All high dividend paying stocks, we are going to make it ours. And all the papa karmas, that should not happen. That's why they keep on stressing the fact sarva karma phala tyaga. Otherwise they would have simply said karma phala tyaga. And even when they say karma phala tyaga, they mean that all types of karma, because they know how a human mind functions. We always seek an option. Isn't it okay to just hold on to something which is dear to us and leave something that is not meant for us? See, sannyasa is not something like, it's like, let me come up with this example. We don't know a person at all. We haven't seen who that person is. Okay. And it is very easy to forget that person. So does it mean that I am viragi now? I don't have any sort of attachment towards that person. The true test is when you know that person, and yet if you can disassociate yourself, yet you can achieve vairagya. That is the true test, I haven't even heard the name, I haven't even seen the face. And if I say that I'm practicing vairagya because I'm not attached to that person, that doesn't make any sense. So karma phala parityaga is, it's our own karma. Because I know how human mind works. Very intellectual, very clever. So it may say that, how about transferable? Okay. I give up on the karmas of somebody else and let them give up on my karma. Karma is not transferable. It's not book my show tickets that you can pass it on to somebody else. You cannot. So it's our own karma. It means that I am the one who is entitled to that. I cannot pass it on to somebody else. Therefore, sarva karma phalatyaga is sannyasa, and it all comes down to us. So we are not escaping here. So that's why they keep on repeating the same word, so that it emphasizes on the fact that sarva karma phalatyaga means sarva karma phalatyaga, and we are not joking about it. All right, moving on. Yam sannyasam iti prahuhu tam yogam vidhi. Know that is yoga. No, comma, that is yoga. And proper sophisticated English. Know that it is yoga. How is that? Karma anusthana lakshanam tam paramartha sannyasam vidhi. That is yoga. Now, here is where he opens up, Madhusudana Saraswati opens up to yoga and how yoga reveals plenty of things. Here it is, see. Yogaha chittavritti nirodha. We all know this. Chittavritti nirodha is called as yoga. And it is the 5 vrittis. Pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smrtaya. And all these 5 needs to be completely absent. Okay. Pramana is pratyaksha, anumana, etc., etc. Viparyaya is the mithya jnanam, the wrong perception about something. And vikalpa, shabda jnana anupati vastu shunyo vikalpa, the things that we encounter or that we comprehend only through words. And even though the object is not present right in front of our eyes, we end up comprehending that particular thing, that is vikalpa. And then smriti, nidra is absolute absence of the consciousness. And then smriti is the asampramosha, and whatever we have done, if it is recalled, then it is called as smriti. So these are the 5 types of vritti. And these vritti needs to be nirodha, that is yoga. In sannyasa, sarva karma phalatyaga happens. And in yoga, all these 5 types of vritti is absent. Therefore, both of them qualify, because now that itself is giving us the hint that karma phala has got its roots. If you want to find out how exactly karma phala functions, if you want to see where karma phala functions or how it functions, where are its roots? So these are the places where the roots of these karma phala reside, in these vikshepas. It all functions in our mind itself. And in these vikshepas, if we can get rid of it, they are saying karma phala, sarva karma phala tyaga is sannyasa on one hand, and on the other hand they are saying that this chitta vikshepa bhava, chitta vritti nirodha is yoga. Therefore, yam sannyasam prahuhu yogam tam vidhi. It is not different from one another. They are both one and the same. Why are you making such a statement? How is it possible to make such a statement? Because yasmat asanyasta sankalpaha, in the second part of the shloka, in the second line, they say that asanyasta sankalpaha na yogi bhavati kaschana. Kaschana, nobody can qualify as a yogi if they have not achieved asanyasta sankalpaha. So it means that in order to be called as a yogi, they need to be sanyasta sankalpaha. And if they are asanyasta sankalpaha, they cannot be a yogi. So what does it say? It says that yoga and sannyasa are somehow, they are merging there. They mean the same thing. This is the reason why it was told in the first line that yam sannyasam iti prahuhu yogam tam vidhi pandava. you should consider that it is yoga, right? Okay. Now, as this is laid down, yam sanyasamiti prahuhu yogam tam vidhi pandava. After this, karma yoga. How does karma yoga help us in as a part or as a predecessor, as a prerequisite for dhyana yoga? Because as I told you in the 5th chapter, sparshan kirtva bahirbahyan, from those shlokas, dhyana yoga was mentioned. So how do we attain this dhyana yoga? How can karma yoga assist us in attaining this dhyana yoga? This was a foundation that was laid. Anashritah karma phalam, all those things, how one should conduct themselves, and what is sannyasa, what is yoga. So sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriyaha, and yam sanyasamiti prahuhu yogam tam vidhi pandava. Nahya sannyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. All those things are done now. So does it mean that one should keep on performing karma? Since again, see the idea of human mind. Now that you have given us an option that even those who are a karmi or a grihi, those who are in grihastha, those who are performing their karma, even they have an option to qualify, or even they can be called as sannyasi and yogi. Does it mean that one needs to keep on doing yavat jivam? As long as they are alive, they should keep on performing the karmas. Is that what you intend to say? Was the question. That was not the intention when they said that. That's why I said that arurukshor muner yogam karma karanam uchyate. There are 3 or 4 categories that we can do. What are these 4 categories? The 4 categories are, the first one is there are some people who are arurukshu. The definition of the word arurukshu is he who is desirous of climbing is called as arurukshu. Aruruksha is the desire to climb up. Okay, it's like just like titiksha or mimamsa or jignyasa. These are some of the unique words that are created in grammar. Therefore, this word also derived from the same way. Aruruksha. Arohanam, the popular word arohanam. Arohanam ichhati athva arohanasya ichha aruruksha. Arohanam ichhati iti arurukshu. That's how it becomes. So, arurukshoho munehe. That is the first variety. There are some people who are yogam arurukshoho. Those who want to climb up that yoga, dhyana yoga. They qualify as arurukshu. And then there are some people who are yoga rudha. Arudha. Arudha is that which has already been attained. Arohanam has been attained by them. Arohanam has been done by them. So a state of condition where arohanam is already done, that is called as arudha. Okay. And then there are some people who are neither aruruksha nor arudha. What do you mean by neither aruruksha nor arudha? Not aruruksha is they do not even know, they do not have the remotest idea that they should climb. And then arudha is they do have idea, but they chose not to show any interest towards that. That's why they are not even in the path. Okay. Some are completely unaware of it, some are aware of it, but are not serious about it. Some are serious about it, and some have already attained it. Some certain categories. Now, the previous question that I mentioned, the question was, does it mean that one should keep on continuing with all the activities as long as they live? Is this the idea? When you said that sasanyasi cha yogi cha, especially anashritah karma phalam, if that is the only thing, then we keep on continuing doing all our actions. What is the harm in that? This is the question that was asked by, as part of Purupaksha, that was asked by Madhusudana Saraswati in his commentary. Tat kim prashastatva karma yoga eva yavajjiva manushtheyaha. Does it mean that because it is praised so much by this, because you equated that with sannyasa and yoga as well, you said that they are not different from one another. Does it mean that we must keep on continuing working? I said, no, that's not the idea. Then what is the idea? The idea is arurukshoho, arodhum ichchataha, those who want to climb up. For them, only for them, this karma yoga, that staying in the karma prapancha, doing their regular things, not escaping from or not running away from their regular karmas, but also keeping in mind that they should become anashritaha for all the karma phala. That becomes a karanam, that becomes a hetu. That works as a tool for them, that works as an instrument for them, if they are arurukshoho. But what happens to those people who have already achieved it? Arudha. This is an interesting word, the word arudha. I'm not sure if you have ever come across this word arudha in other Shastras perspective. If you are ever exposed to Jyotisha, okay, there is something called as Prashna Marga in Jyotisha. And in Prashna, 99% of the calculation, their Sara Sarvaswam, the essence of Prashna, lies in one lagna. There are 6 lagnas, but one lagna called as Arudha. They call it as Arudha Lagna. The reason why it is called as Arudha is, whatever that lagna is, that shows the entirety of the karma that is carried by the person. That's why it is called as Arudha. That it already shows that, it gives you a hawk-eye view. It shows that this is it, a complete analysis. That's why it is called as Arudha. Likewise, here also, Yogam Arurukshoho. And it's like, what is he climbing? Stairs? No. Yogam Arurukshoho. And he should have the qualification of a Muni as well. He should have that ability to control, that Jitendriyatvam should be there, that Maunam should be there. And all those things are, of course, mentioned. And then, Yogam Arurukshoho Munehe means Karma Phala Sannyasina. Obviously, only then he will qualify as such. So, karma karanam uchyate. This karma, the things that he is doing, it will act as a karanam. It will help him in achieving it faster. But tasyaiva punaha yoga arudhasya. Here lies the chamatkara. They are not two different people. It is the same person when he attains. Tasyaiva yoga arudhasya. They are not talking about some other person. It's not like two different people. They are not talking about two different people in this shloka. Saying that as long as he is arurukshuhu, karma will act as a karana for him. But the moment tasyaiva yoga rudhasya, when he becomes yoga rudha, shamah karanam uchyate. Uparamate. Upashamaha. All the karmas, it ceases to exist. That is the right English translation for shama. Shama means ceasing to exist. Means that it loses its existence. Slowly it obliterates. That is why it is called as shama. For yoga rudha, this karma slowly obliterates. It doesn't exist for them. That is the avastha of a jivan mukta. And jivan, he is there, but he is already mukta. So that is yoga rudha. Right? Yes. The distinction is when he is arurukshu. Arurukshu is when he is trying to climb or when he is trying to achieve that dhyana yoga. These karmas will aid him. How does karma aid somebody? It is unheard of. Especially in terms of Vedanta, it is unheard of. Because the kind of karma that they are talking about here is anashritah karma phalam karyam karma karoti. Those kind of karmas in which he is absolutely involved without having any sort of desire towards the outcomes. If this is the sort of karma that they are associated with, then yes, absolutely yes, that it will aid them. That is for arurukshu. But for yoga rudha, the karma will slowly start to dissolve. That is why shamah karanam uchyate. That the shama becomes the reason for that. Yes. So the question was very, very simple, I guess. I mean, you understood the question. Why? What was the connection between the second one and the third shloka? Up until the second shloka, they laid down some ground rules that even a karmi, a person who is involved in samsara, who is involved in karmas, if he qualifies with karma phala trishna rahitatva, he can also be called as sannyasi and yogi. Now, the question was that does it mean that you are promoting, you are professing the fact that you should keep on doing work as long as you live? Is that what you are trying to hint at from these two shlokas? Was the question that was asked. Right? So the answer to that was, no, we are not professing the fact that one needs to keep on doing this as long as they live. That is not the idea behind it. As long as they are arurukshu, as long as they are trying to climb up towards or achieving that yoga or achieving that samadhi, this karma, this sort of karma will aid them, will help them. Once they have reached, karma doesn't help them, isn't it? There is no karma for them. So it won't help them. Shama becomes karana for them. Shama is the absence, the obliteration of the existing karma. That becomes karana for them. So karma ceases to exist for them. Karma ceases to exist. That's why I use that term ceases to exist, because karma was previously there, that they are involved in it, and it slowly diminishes. It slowly goes away. Yeah. It reduces on its own. It reduces on its own. It's not like we try to do something. It reduces on its own once we attain that yoga rudhatva. Once we reach that state, it automatically reduces. And that's also another way of validating oneself. Because it's not that easy to, if we try it by ourselves, I'm trying to reduce everything. It's not reducing weight. It doesn't work that way. Even these kind of things, even reducing weight doesn't work that way. It has got its own way of conducting things. Even here as well. Yoga rudhasya tasya shamah karanam uchyate. Is this clear now? Shamah karanam uchyate. Now, shama is very interestingly defined by both of them. Shama is defined as upashama by Bhagavad. Sarvakarmabhyo nivrittihi is how he has defined it. Madhusudana Saraswati, again, he defines it as sarvakarma sannyasa eva karanam. And it all comes down to the same circle. It all comes down to the same point. Upashama is karmanam upashamaha. Sarvakarmabhyo nivrittihi. Whether you call it a sarvakarma nivritti or sarvakarma tyaga, it all comes down to the same point. That's why they said that once you attain that, sasanyasi cha yogi cha, there is no distinction between them. They can be qualified as both sannyasi as well as a yogi. All right. Now the question is, how long does it going to take? As I said, this is like a Google form. Okay, they keep on asking this question. Like, we agree to all your terms and conditions. We understood what is the premise for this. And after the premise, they said that this is how the variation is. Arurukshor muner yogam karma karanam uchyate. So as long as you are trying, karma becomes an aid. Karma works as an aid for you. And then yoga rudhasya upashamaha karanam uchyate. When do we become yoga rudha? That's an obvious question, isn't it? So when can we achieve this? So for that question, kada yoga rudho bhavati? That needs to be answered. So he said that yadahi, shloka number 4, yadahi na indriyartheshu na karmasu anushajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudhas tadochyate. One of the finest, and also by finest I mean well polished, well refined definitions of the word yoga rudha, where it leaves no doubt in the perceiver's mind. Yada yogi arthat samadhiyamana chitta, he attains that samadhi through yoga. Indriyartheshu, not just in indriya, but indriyartheshu. Indriyanam arthaha, the subjects, the things. Indriyarthaha are the things, the subjects, the materials, the materialistic world, by the way. I just wanted to, I was thinking about the shloka while coming by from my home. And I remembered one shloka from Bhagavad's Shatpadi Stotram, Vishnu Shatpadi Stotram, the very first one, where he asked that, Damaya manaha, shamaya vishaya mriga trishnam. Right? Avinayam Apanaya Vishnu is how it begins. Avinayam Apanaya Vishnu. And then Damaya Manaha. Get complete control over mind. And then Shamaya Vishaya Mrigatrishna. It is the Vishayas that are difficult for us. It is one thing to gain control over sense organs, but how? If you keep on coming up with new forms, AI generation, okay, if it keeps on generating new things, then how do you keep yourself away from those things? Okay, and they said that they are Mrigatrishna. He used a beautiful word called as Mrigatrishna. See, I'm basically a person who has studied literature, so I cannot help. My mind processes things like that. I cannot help but appreciate these small things. So the word Mrigatrishna means Marichika. It's a very popular word in Kannada as well. Marichika. It's like mirage. Okay. It looks like a mirage. It only appears as if it is true. It only appears as if it is going to give pleasure to us. It doesn't. It's just like a mirage. So those are the Vishayas. Yeah. So that exact kind of Vishaya are told here as Indriyartha. Here the word Vishaya has not been used, but Artha has been used, but in the same sense. So Indriyartheshu, when in all these Shabdadaya, the sound, the taste, the shape, the feel, all these things, they are called as Indriyarthas. And in these Indriyarthas, and also karmasu, nitya naimittika kamya karmasu, the varieties of karma that we have. Okay. In all these karmas and all these materials, when na anushajjate. Anushajjate means, very interestingly, anushanga buddhim na kurute. Anushangam na karoti is na anushajjate. Anushajjate means anusandhana buddhim karoti. What anusandhana buddhim karoti? Anushanga buddhim karoti means kartavyata buddhim karoti. Just take just imagine how do we get ourselves involved in any sort of activity, or what draws us towards that. Several years ago, none of us had a mobile phone, right? And slowly it has become a very integral part of our life nowadays. How does anybody get involved or get attracted, get pulled towards these things? It's a very beautiful explanation here. I mean, it is not meant in this way, but this is the gist of it. We need to understand the root of all these things. What is it that is causing us to get involved or drawn towards these things like moths to fire? It is kartavyata buddhi. Kartavyata buddhi. A person from a very humble background works his way up and achieves something, lands a good job. Do you notice the first thing that person does? Apple. Why? This is how something gets anushajjate. This is how anushajjanga happens. It almost is like an unwritten law somewhere that if you do something like this, if you achieve something in life, or if you get money, the first thing that you need to do is this. It is kartavyata buddhim. It almost makes us feel that it must be done. How can you not do this? It's like you are seriously into sadhana. And let me give you another example as well. I mean, all my examples are not only level 3. I can give level 1 examples as well. A serious sadhaka, or who is very much into sadhana, he goes to Samudra Tiram, the shores of sea. They are one of the best places to do sadhana. Okay. But there are people who tell you that you have gone to the ocean, you have gone to the sea, and you did not play in water. See, it has become almost like it's a mandatory thing that if you go to seashore, you must play in water. You go to Gokarna, you forget about whatever darshana you have there or not. But if you have been to a beach, you should play. You should involve in some sort of play in water. You should get wet there. See, this is kartavyata buddhi. This is how Vishayas drag us, they pull us into these things. That's why it is said that anushajyate. Why exactly that kriyapadam is used? And how did you derive all such meanings, you ask? Bhagavad writes that na anushajyate anushangam kartavyatah buddhim na karoti. He doesn't feel that it must be done. It is not mandatory to do such things. Only those who have that much of clarity in mind, they would arrive at this sort of conclusion. Okay. Indriyartheshu, karmasu, nityanaimittika, etc., all such kind of karmas and all different types of subjects that we have for our indriyas. One does not get involved as if it is mandatory. He does involve, but it does not mean that he involves as if it is mandatory. Yo, char log kya kahenge? No, not that kind of thinking. That if I don't involve myself in such an activity, what will happen to my social status? If I go to a place and if I don't upload a photograph, what will my unknown thousands of followers on Instagram will think? This is fake kartavyata buddhi. This is anushajyate. And how does one become yoga rudha is when he doesn't involve in these kind of things, in nityanaimittika karmas or in indriyarthas, as if it is kartavyameva. He doesn't. Is it okay to understand now? Yada hina indriyartheshu na karmasu anushajyate. Focus on the word anushajyate. Because we have been doing anushanga most of the times. And he does the opposite of it. Na anushajyate. And then sarva sankalpa sannyasi. So the word sarva sankalpa sannyasi, sarvan kaman sarvani karmani sannyasya ityartha. Not just the karma phala, but also sarvan kaman, the desire as well. Why is desire being brought in here? It's a new introduction, isn't it? So far you have been only talking about karma and we were comfortable with that. Why introduce a new term here? Why bring in yet another headache? Because we all know it can cause a headache. So the reason is sankalpamulah kamaha. Bhagavad quotes this line. I'm not saying this. Bhagavad has quoted this line. He says that sankalpamulah kamo vai yajnaha sankalpa sambhavaha. Sankalpamulahi sarve kamaha. You can underline that line. This is Bhagavad line. Because all kamas are sankalpamulaha. It all comes from resolve. It all comes from, it all stems from that resolve that we have towards something. You ask a normal child, what do you want to achieve? Because that is the question that has been posed. It is although the right question, but the answer that has been taught is in a very wrong way. You will never hear a single child telling that I want to achieve sannyasa. The people will beat them. Not the child, the parents. What are you teaching your child at such a young age? How can you tell them, teach them that you want to achieve sannyasa? Because they have attached a fake stigma to sannyasa. And they have made it look like it is something that must be avoided at all times. It is not. That sort of thing needs to be rectified. I still have 30 minutes? 30? 40 minutes? 120? Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay. So, Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi, because the word Sankalpa has been used here, Sankalpa Mulaha Sarve Kamaha. Therefore, that Kama also needs to be removed. The desire to resolve also should go away. The desire to do something must also cease to exist. That doesn't go away in us. As I said, this example might not work as of today, but several, 50, 60 years ago, there was actually some families who were very, very difficult. It's like, they did not even have ek waqt ka khana. That kind of, poverty was there. And in those times, it doesn't mean that they were very strong, because sometimes adversity also misconceptualized, thinking that we have gained control over that. It's just that there was absolutely absence of that thing. There was no opportunity for us to get involved or indulged in indriyarthas. When the menu doesn't involve gulab jamun, everybody is following a strict diet. The idea of strict diet comes when the menu involves gulab jamun, or when it is put on the plate. That's when the strict diet thing makes sense. That also needs to be kept in mind. It's the desire, because it all stems from the mind, isn't it? Therefore, sarva sankalpa sannyasi, not the mere absence of the things right in front of our eyes. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudhas tadochyate. He is known as yoga rudha at that time. Therefore, sarvan kaman sarvani karmani cha tyajayati bhagavan is how even Bhagavad Padaha has concluded this shloka. Eda evam yoga rudha. Once he attains this yoga rudha state, once he becomes yoga rudha, then this atma, that is our self, it gets uplifted, it gets elevated. Because we were known to only these people nowadays. Now we are known to, and now we are uplifted from this level. Upgradation has happened. So that is the gist of the next shloka that they are telling. Uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayat. Probably one of the most popular shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. So uddhared atmana atmanam natmanam avasadayat. One must not try to pull themselves down by themselves. They must always try to uplift themselves. And I know that these kind of words, when they are told in such English, because of the word, and that word being popularly used in other contexts, it always gives a different sense, it always gives a different meaning. It becomes too generic for our taste. For the taste of Vedanta, it becomes too generic. But I'm sure that the august audience here will understand in what sense it is said as upliftment. All right. So samsara sagare nimagnam. We are immersed in the samsara sagara, and we get uplifted from this samsara sagara. That's what uddharet means. Ut haret. Haret is to lift. Ut to lift upwards. That's why it is called as uddhara as well. Haranameva haraha. Ut always refers to upwards. So I'll give you one famous example for that. Uttama. We have heard the word uttama, right? That is the superlative degree of high. Ut, uttara, uttama. So tarap and tamap. That's how it works. It's comparative and superlative degree. Now here, uddharet atmana atmanam uddharet. And not with any other resources, not with any other instruments or tools. One needs to uplift themselves by themselves. By viveka, by understanding oneself. And for all this understanding, we need not go to any IITs and IIMs. It's all in here, within oneself. That's why uddhared atmana atmanam. Okay. Na atmanam avasadayet. At any given point of time, one must not, in spite of knowing all these things, one must not involve in all the karmas and indriyarthas madly. One should not. Once you become aware that there is a grave danger out there, because if I don't uplift myself, if I don't allow myself to come up from this samsara sagara, I might be stuck here for God knows how many years, God knows how many editions of life. So once we are aware of this fact, and yet if we involve ourselves in certain activities, it really questions our integrity, isn't it? Our commitment to this cause. So that should not happen. That's the idea behind saying that na atmanam avasadayet. At any given point of time, one must not push themselves down to such a level after knowing, after being aware of such things. See, when you are unaware, it's another thing. Again, if we are unaware, it doesn't mean that you are allowed to do these things. That's how people have interpreted that. Gottilde madid tappu papa alla. No, it is still a papa. It is still a papa. It's just that you did not know that. And if you know it and still do it, it increases it. So one must not do that. That's why na atmanam avasadayet. Why are you saying all these things? Because atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. It's only us who is our true friend. The only thing that stays with us is us, nothing else. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. And atmaiva ripur atmanaha. And also, enemy is also ourselves only. If we don't, even after knowing all these things, even after plenty of retreats, if we still do not retreat ourselves from the various places where we have already invested, because somebody once told us that diversification of portfolio is very important. So what we did was, we diversified our portfolio called as mind into 100 different places. Now the problem is, how do we de-diversify it? How do we retreat it? That is pratyahara, isn't it? One needs to draw things back. That's what he's saying. And this is exactly how an enemy works. We just don't know what kind of threat an enemy poses. All the enemies are only dangerous at that point, are only dangerous up until that point when they are unpredictable. When an enemy becomes predictable, they don't remain as an enemy. Either you are on their side or they would have come this side. That's the only possible explanation. Why we still consider Pakistan as an enemy is because we don't know, we can't predict what will happen next. The unpredictability is what makes the enemy formidable. And also, this is applicable for us. And if I'm not predictable, if I don't know, even after listening to all these things, even after going through this, understanding that I am in this sort of a situation, I need to be very serious about it. And if I don't do anything about it, then it's quite sad. So that's why atmaiva ripuhu atmanaha. So now you said that Atma, ourself is our bandhu and ourself is an enemy. How? Obvious question. How do you make this statement? Bandhuratma atmanastasya yenatmaiva atmana jitaha. You may count how many times the word atma has been used in this line. But the gist is yenatma atmanaiva jitaha. You need to focus on the word jitaha. It should be a declared victory. Just like how we are waiting for the June 4th, isn't it? The counting. You're not completely victorious unless you are declared. So it should be declared. Jitaha. Atmana atmaiva jitaha. One must have that jitendriyatvam. One must have complete control over themselves. Karya karana sanghato yena vashikritaha is how Bhagavad explains that. It should be completely under our control. Only then ourselves will be our bandhu. If it is not under our control, then we can't predict. See, that's why I mentioned the point, unpredictability is what makes an enemy formidable. So, anatmanastu shatrutve, when we have not understood what we are, or when we don't know completely, when we do not have complete control over ourselves, varteta atmaiva shatruvata, atma eva shatruvad varteta. Our self itself will remain as an enemy. It appears as an enemy. Ourselves will appear as an enemy. And then jitatmanaha. That's why jitatma. And let me tell you one thing, how this country was built. What was the vision on which this entire country was built? This great land was built was on this very idea. People think that administration and politics has got nothing to do with this Shastra or with Vedanta. No, we are completely mistaken. It was built on these nuances. It was built on these notions. The whole country was built on this notion. Yoga and Kshema. And this yoga and Kshema is, he who is an Atmavan can only ensure that his subjects will also be an Atmavan. It's not always about Vikas. I'm sorry. Sometimes it is about Vilaya as well. And most of the times it is about understanding what we truly are. And this is the reason why Valmiki questioned Narada in the beginning of Ramayana, Atmavan Kaha. Why did he mention Atmavan as an adjective to describe a complete man? It is because it's very important for somebody who is in administration to be an Atmavan. So it is not like it is meant for only a certain set of people, only those who are in. It is for everyone. That it is a generic topic. Therefore, Jitatmanaha. So being and able to have control over oneself is a virtue, and this virtue can be achieved by every single one. It is not for only few. Jitatmanaha and Prashantasya. Now, the word prashanta means prasanna antahkaranasya is how Bhagavad has defined it. Antahkarana, the four antahkaranas, chitta, that should be prasanna. That should be pleasant at all times. Okay, it should not be subjected to any fluctuations caused due to some circumstances. So most of the times we are subjected to these sort of circumstantial fluctuations. If everything is calm and if nothing is happening, then we are all prashanta. But someone else is doing something either deliberately or the other way, we get disturbed. That means that there is still that prashantata has not yet dawned completely. So that needs to be there. That prasannata should always be there. For that person, Atma Param Samahita. This is where we need to observe how Madhusudana Saraswati defines it. Very beautifully he mentions that the word Param needs to be Paramatma. The word Paramatma is there, no, in Shloka. It's not one word. Madhusudana Saraswati says that it should be split. Param Atma. So Atma Param Samahitaha. So what is the meaning of the word Param here? Param means absoluteness or Kaivalyam. Kevalam Atma Samahitaha. So one remains in oneself. Okay. Jitatmanaha prashant paramitiva chedaha is how he defines. You should split the word param and it becomes prashantasyeva param kevalam atma samahito bhavati. Only when we are jitatma and we have attained that pleasantness in our antahkaranas, prashantatma, for that atma param samahitaha, kevalam samahitaha, it attains that samadhi. Okay. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha manapamanayohu. Now again, the last part is validation. Okay. Dvibadham subadham. You should always validate. How do you recognize a person who has achieved all these things that has been told so far? It's a wonderful thing that it has been told. Okay. The traits of a yogi. These are the traits of a yogi. That was the subject deliverable, and these are the deliverables given, and I've delivered it. They have delivered it, and I have only been a voice for that. Now, how do you validate it? How do you know that? How do you ensure that this person is so and so? There are a few things. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha mana apamana yohu. The dualities, the constant dualities that we usually face in life. Shita and Ushna. Shita is cold, Ushna is hot. Sukha and Dukkha, popular words, happiness and sadness. Mana and Apamana. And pride and not so pride. Okay. Mana, Apamana yoga. And then Jnana, Vijnana. And he needs to be Samahita. He needs to view them in an equanimity. That is the whole idea. There should be no fluctuation in his mind. You remember the first thing that I mentioned initially. I said that if they did not emphasize on the fact that sarva karma phalatyaga as part of the definition of sannyasa, what would happen is that we would want to have an option for that. Right? That should not happen. That's why they mentioned all these things. It comes in two important varieties, two distinctive varieties, sukha and dukkha, mana and apamana, shita and ushna. And in all these things, puja paribhaga samaha syat. He should be equal. And there should be no distinction in our mind regarding these things. That's when he would have become yoga rudha. And then jnana vijnana triptatma kutastho vijitendriyaha yukta ityuchyate yogi samaloshtasma kanchanaha. then he would be called as not just yoga rudha, but yukta, just one more grade. It's like, academic level 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14A. If you are aware of the academic ranks nowadays, academic levels, the UGC has invented. So this is that kind of academic level. Okay. Yoga Rudha is fantastic. Yukta ityuchyate. He has achieved it. They both mean the same thing. Yoga Rudha has got 4 letters. Yukta has got 2 letters. That's all. That's the difference. Yukta ityuchyate. Yogi. What should he have? The first thing is Shitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu and Tatha Mana Apamana Yoho. He should have that Samabuddhi. And also Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. Jnanam is defined as Shastrokta Padarthanam Parijnanam. All the things that are defined in Shastra, one should be aware of. That is called as Jnana. The actual awareness of the things that are told in Shastra. Because Shastra is something that is driven or derived by those who have the absolute knowledge of things. And they don't make, there are no swakapola kalpitas. They don't make any fancy statements. There are no whimsical statements in Shastra. Shastra is a definitive document. So when you understand the Shastras properly, it means that you have jnanam. You have understood the fundamentals correctly. And then Vijnanam tu shastrato jnatanam tathaiva swanubhava karanam. And when you bring it to practice, when you bring it to your experience, when you experience the things that you have studied, it is called as Vijnanam. So Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. And then Triptaha is Sanjata Alam Pratyaha. Another brilliant definition for the word Tripta. Usually in Shraddha, they ask this line. Triptastha is the question they ask. And the response is Triptasmaha. What is this Tripta? The Tripta is, Kantbharti Tinnadu is not Tripti. That's not the idea of Tripti. Tripti is, as mentioned here, Sanjata Alam Pratyayaha. The comprehension must have risen in our mind, in our intellect, that this is sufficient. Alam. This is it. This is done. This sort of consciousness must have already risen in our intellect. That is called as Tripti. Like how that sort of idea has already risen in your minds, I believe. Right. Okay. So, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutasthaha. Kutasthaha Aprakampya. Kutasthaha means Aprakampya. He who is unshaken. No matter what, no matter how many ever things you place in front of him, he is unshaken. So that is called as Kutasthaha. And then obviously the next time again re-emphasizing on the fact of Jita Atma, they said Vijitendriya, having gained total control over Indriyas. Yukta ityuchyate yogi. Yaha idrishaha yuktaha samahitaha uchyate. And he is called as Yukta. Samahitaha, he who has attained Samadhi. He is called as, or he who has attained Yoga. Yoga Samadhi. He who has Yoga is Yogi. He who has Samadhi is Samahitaha or Yuktaha. Ityuchyate yogi. And another qualification for him is Samaloshtasma Kanchanaha. The stone that is fallen on the ground and gold, they both must be perceived equally. When you know that the IT department is going to raid your home and you have 100 kilos of gold stacked in your place, at that moment, Samaloshtasma Kanchanaha appears just like this. No, for me, everything is the same. No. It's the desire. It all stems from the desire. No? So that's why Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi is the word that was used. So that sort of equanimity must be achieved. Samaloshtasma Kanchanaha, where they view both the things equally. It doesn't make any difference for them. And then the last shloka. Suhrin mitrar yudasina madhyastha dveshya bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. Bhagavad picks up a different patha here, a patha bheda here. He says that vimuchyate is another patha. I feel that he was fond of that patha because he very much mentions that vishishyate, vimuchyate iti va pathantaram. So amongst all the yuktas, amongst all those who have attained this samadhi, who is the best? Are there any such qualified people amongst whom I can make that I can claim that this is the best one? Said that suhrit, friends. Okay, and then Bhagavad definitions are always going to be fantastic. It's like it gives you a fresh insight into the things that we feel that we know. We assume that we know what is suhrit. Suhrit means a friend. Now look at Bhagavad definition. Now he writes that pratyupakaram anapekshya upakarta. Most of our buildings, the house of cards that we have built related to certain ideas will fall down when we read the proper definitions of these words. Okay. Pratyupakaram anapekshya. Without expecting anything in return, he who helps is called as a friend, is called as a suhrit. This person. Okay, now most of our friends are disqualified. Suhrit. And then mitra. Mitra is someone who has got that heart towards you. He who has got a responding heart towards you. They don't do much. Whenever you feel sad, they will always be there just to acknowledge the fact that you are sad. Yeah, it is required. Okay, Suhrit, mitra. And then Ari. Of course, we know. Shatru, enemies. Okay. And then Udasina, Nakasyachit Paksham Bhajate. The so-called mutual ones, mutual friends. Okay. They are they are not on either way. They are not your friends, they are not your enemies. They simply stay. Okay. And Madhyasthaha. Madhyasthaha is that person who seeks the best for both the pakshas. He is called as a madhyastha. It was a very popular word once upon a time. Madhyasthike vahisudu was a popular term used. And madhyasthike or madhyastha means he who seeks the welfare of both the parties involved. Basically, investment bankers, those who handle mergers and everything, advocates basically, and those who are into corporate advocacy, they would know that if they are representing both the parties, then they would not want either one of them to be hurt. Okay. That is the idea of madhyastha. So Suhrin, Mitra, Ari, Udasina, Madhyastha and Dveshya, whom we don't like, he is known as Dveshya. He who is subjected to our Dvesha is called as Dveshya. Suhrin, Mitra, Udasina, Madhyastha, Dveshya, and lastly Bandhu, Sambandhi, those who are related to us. In all these people, and Sadhushu, the people who are Sadhu, those who follow the words of Shastra to the last syllable, and also Papeshu, Pratisiddhakarishu, those who do the exact opposite of that. Yes, Shastra Vidhimutsrijya Vartate. And also those who diligently follow Shastra and those who diligently unfollow Shastra. In all these people, Samabuddhi Vimuchyate. And when one attains that Samabuddhi, it is easier said than done. Everybody judges. Okay. The difference is some of us pronounce the judgment, some of us don't. Judge we all. And it is that judge all and judge, comma, we all. So it's not like I don't judge people, everybody judges everyone. It's just that someone likes to pronounce it, present the judgment, somebody doesn't. That's why it is so difficult. Otherwise, why would they talk about such topics? If it was that easy, if we had gained access to such things and had gained control, it would not have been mentioned in these things. It would be very crude for them to say all these things. They have said these things because they know how difficult it is to overcome such human traits. That's why Samabuddhi, to have that equanimity, vimuchyate. He will attain that moksha. He will reach that level. Okay. So that brings us to the end of the topic, the traits of a yogi. Thank you very much for patiently listening all this time. And,